right, welcome back, everybody, for some members first content. This time out, we have our top 10 in 10. These are the 10 hottest selling books on the aftermarket for this past week, and I'm going to present them to you in 10 minutes or less. It's members first because members are going to get this as soon as I'm done filming it, editing it, and I'll put it right out for their consumption. So they're going to get this on Thursday, while everybody else is going to have to wait until Friday afternoon to get my quick look at the top 10 books of the week. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see the top 10 books for this week, I'm going to run them down in 10 minutes or less right after the intro. Oakley dokley, let's get the clock started and get this party started. 10 minutes or less starting now. All right, so kicking us off, we have a book that I did talk about on Wednesday, the Wednesday watch list. I did a little bit of a look ahead to a few books that were selling on pre-selling for a little bit of money, and a couple of them continue to do so even after release. A few dropped off. You won't see Max Rebo here because I'm not putting one sale at 140 bucks on my top 10 list because that's all that sold this week so far. One. So that ain't making it. I know it's above ratio. I know it's an expensive sale, but still, one, when there's like a dozen left, it ain't making the cut. That said, what is making the cut is this Night Terrors, number 3, the 1 in 25. I told you I just like this homage. It's that Hulk Wolverine homage, but it's Batman. I dig it. I dig it. It's 1 in 25. I probably should have ordered it. I don't think I did because I didn't expect it to really maintain the value. To be honest, I thought this would drop back down. It's an event book. Thought there'd be plenty out there. But for now, before Wednesday, this was selling for right around ratio, as you can see. So I thought we might get a dip. I thought this might drop down to $15, $20. But instead of dipping from the $25, $30 sales earlier in the week with the early pre-sales, this actually has gone up to about 40, 35, 40 the last couple of days. So with that, it makes the top 10 list, and it also makes for a book I do not have in my collection because I didn't want to pay a premium, and I still don't. I'll hold out hope and see if this drops down and maybe get it at a later date. But for now, I can like it from afar. That's it. Up next, another book I'm not surprised is still here. This is The Dwellings, number 1, the 1 in 10, the bloody variant. Yes, this thing was pre-selling for around 40 bucks. Well, hit a high of like 40, 50 bucks, $25 for this 1 in 10. Those were pre-sales before Wednesday. And since Wednesday, well, it's kind of maintained that $40 mark for the most part. So a lot of 40, not a lot, but a few. There's a few $40 sales. All the copies sold, all the copies listed are at a premium like this. So this book doesn't seem to be going anywhere just yet. So 40 bucks is what it's going to cost you for this bloody 1 in 10 for Dwellings number 1. This is also a $10 cover to start with, so keep that in mind as well. A book that I'm surprised I didn't have on my list initially because when it was first came out a couple of weeks ago, it was selling for right around ratio, a tiny bit above. It's a 1 in 50, and the book I'm talking about is this Batman Beyond Neo-Gothic number 1. It's a 1 in 50 variant. I like the cover, but I didn't think it was going to have any sort of legs. But this is where it was at. So like last week, again, it was selling a little bit more. So I thought about it even last week, but it was selling for 65, 60, $57, a little bit above that 1 in 50 ratio. But come this week, this one has sold. Granted, it was the only one hitting this mark. There was a couple more $60 sales, but one did hit $110. So all of a sudden, more than double ratio on this book gets it onto the top 10 for this week. So it's something to keep an eye on, something to keep an eye out for, and we'll see what happens going forward. But still, more $60 sales, and then this high of 110. Also, on the Wednesday watch list, I've been complaining about these Ms. Minutes variants because we don't need 8 new Ms. Minutes covers and variants. It just seems pointless to me. I get it. Character's kind of fun on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing Loki season 2, but we don't need a plethora of Ms. Minutes covers. That said, interest is back on that original, which is fine. This is fine. The original, it was a new idea. It's Ramo's cover, 20 plus sales this past week based off of this on this book. So It's back to selling 40 bucks, 30, $40 raw, 120 bucks in a 9.8. So definitely not cheap. So if you have one, you might want to think about moving it. I don't know. If you think it's going to maintain, then keep it to maintain. All I know is they're making more of these variants and interest is there for this original one. And even after this, there's a black and white second print, and then there was another one that they did on the next Timeless series. But still, the OG Ms. Minutes cover is moving once again. 20 plus sales. That said, another book that's coming back into the forefront of collectors' minds to start buying again is this, Council of Kangs. So the Council of Kangs in Avengers 267, this book is back on the marketplace, selling again. Another, again, 20 plus sales. Not a ton, but there's still enough volume for me to take note. And it's once again hitting those familiar prices that we've seen. Some $25 sales as high as $60. So anywhere in that range is what we're seeing this book moving for once again. And you guys know this was a $5 book not that long ago, but spec drove it up. It's staying up there, but now copies are moving again as we are nearing, Loki season 2. So just keep that in mind as well. Up next, I got a couple of books that I've actually talked about on Dollar Bin Digging because I thought you could still find them for cheap, and now all those cheap copies are starting to sell for a little bit more. Starting with Captain America #7. Rumors of the show that could have been. Let's keep this in mind. This is spiking because there was mention of a show that they were thinking about doing before the strike, which doesn't mean they're going to do it after the strike. If anything, it means it's not going to happen. But whatever reason, Captain America 7 is really starting to move now because of that. 25 plus sales over the last week, including some sales of the second print as well. Also, some pretty cool cover. But I had this in Dollar Bin Digging last week. Keep an eye out for these. And hopefully you found some. Because if you did, you would have found, yourself a few bucks. Because now this is selling for $15 to $20. Once again, just keep that in mind. The other book I told you to keep an eye out for fun was that little Zaniac, little nugget of an Easter egg in that Loki trailer. So Zaniac has been selling this past week as well with another 25 plus sales on this book. And copies of this have been selling for a decent amount. Some cheap copies at like $10, more in like the $25 range, some even higher than this, depending on condition. There's also Mark Jewelers to keep an eye out for. A lot of different in the newsstand. People want to pay a little premium for the newsstand. So keep that all in mind, but don't get ahead of yourself with this one. Because again, one, it's a rumor. Two, it's a villain. I don't even think it's gonna be like a huge appearance. So just don't get too invested in this. If you have it, feel free, dig it, flip it, do what you want. But that's what's been moving. So it makes the list. Back on the list. I occasionally have to look back on some of these books that we've seen before. I don't like to do repeats. I try to avoid it, but sometimes some books have to come back just to remind you that even though they're not been on the list, they could have been on the list every week, like week in and week out. I just bring them back occasionally just to remind you of things like Spider Boy's still selling. It is. It's still selling. To my surprise, we still don't know much about it. Bailey, we know we're getting a series of his own soon, but outside of that, 35 plus sales ain't too bad for this book. And that's just this cover and not the other covers, not the second print, third print, all that other stuff. I just counted up manually this particular secret variant cover. So this has 35 plus sales over the last week still. And copies of this are still selling for $35 to $40 raw and right around that $100, $120 mark, 100, 110 off for 9.8s. Seems to be the going rate. And like I said, there's a lot of sales, like 35 plus sales in a small number. All right. Tax Show. We talked about this one also yesterday. That while now the dollar book. I brought this up when we did our top 10 look back because years ago, this is on the top 10 list. Now it is finding its way back because 40 plus sales this week for Star Wars 43, the first appearance of Lando, because Donald Glover may be working on a Lando series. I'm excited if that happens. Interest is back. People are buying Lando once again. Another 40 plus sales. Again, it's not so much that the prices are spiking. It's selling for what it has been selling over the last few years and time. I mean, eking up a little bit, but it's really the volume is why it's here. Raw copies selling for like $30 to $50, 9/8 in that kind of $300 range at present, which again, it's starting to rise up again, but it was much higher a while back, dropped hard, and now it's starting to dip back up a little bit. So keep an eye on it. That's all I'm saying. And lastly, this book I also put in Dollar Bin Digging for this week. because it's still out there. You can still dig this out of those cheap boxes, but copies have been moving. And the book I'm talking about here is New X-Men 114, over 130 sales the past week alone on this book because of the rumors that that girl's going to be playing Cassandra Nova in Deadpool 3. Still not 100% confirmed. Seems to be the case. I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. It's villain spec, so keep that in mind as well. But at the end of the day, this is still the start of Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, and it was a classic run. So it is important of its own, but there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. So keep that in mind too. As I said, 130 plus sales, but copies have been selling for $10, as high like $25. By and large, most have been selling for like 10 to 15 bucks. So you're not going to get rich if you find it. You're not going to get rich if you sell all your copies, but you might be able to find them in those cheap boxes still, and you might be able to make a few bucks because the volume and the interest is there. And with that, we have 5 seconds left, and we are going to shut the clock off because we are done. That was our top 10 in 10 for the week. Thanks to all of our members. You guys get to see this a bit early. I appreciate all the support, but I appreciate everybody. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following the channel. Make sure you got the alerts set so you don't miss any of the content that's dropping every day, including all the shorts that I put together. So if you like to see runs of covers set to some fun music, I got them for you with our shorts. And with that, thank you again. I appreciate you all, and I will be back with some more content soon. All right, later.